microscopy is like having a super magnifying glass or a special camera that helps us see things that are too small to see with our eyes. It's like having a tiny detective that can zoom in on incredibly small stuff. So, to come up with an example, imagine you want to see what a grain of sand looks like up in close up. With your eyes, it just looks like a speck. But if you see a microscope, you can see all the tiny grain and even the individual grains that make up that speck when you see it through that. But there are types of these microscopes. There are different kinds of microscopes, each designed for a specific purpose, like having different tools in a toolbox for different jobs. For example, if you want to study a tiny bug, you might use a regular microscope with light. We call it optical microscope to see its features. But if you want to look at something much smaller, like the structure of virus, you would need an electron microscope, which can show something at a much tinier scale. Now, transmission electron microscope. Think of it like a magical tunnel through which you can see the inside of a cell. It's like having a camera inside the cell to see what's going on, what's happening. Then talk about scanning electron microscope. This microscope is like a three-dimensional scanner for tiny things. It can help you see the surface of objects in incredible details. For example, it can show you the texture of butterflies' wings very, very closely. Then, to talk about scanning probe microscope, this microscope is like a tiny finger that can touch and feel super tiny things, almost like you are exploring a miniature world with your hands. So, to give you an example, if you are a scientist working with new material at atomic scale, you might use a scanning probe microscope to move individual atoms around and create new structures, new materials, like buildings with Lego, but at much smaller scales. Then there's another category, we call them confocal microscope. This microscope is like having special camera that can take very sharp and clear three-dimensional pictures of tiny objects. So you can see all their details. To talk about an example, if you are studying a cell, a confocal microscope can help you see not just the outside, but also what's happening inside the cell. It's like having a tiny three-dimensional movie of the cell's activities that are going on. Now, the very fundamental question comes that how these microscopes work. Now, microscopes have two main superpowers. One is magnification and another is resolution. So, to come up with an example, think of magnification like using a telescope to see the moon up close. It makes things that are far away appear much larger. For example, if you are looking at the tiny bug and the microscope makes it look like 100 times bigger, it's like you would have brought the bug 100 times closer to your eyes. Now, resolution is like having really clear glasses that help you see small details, like being able to read a tiny print on a poster from far away. A microscope with higher resolution can show you very, very tiny things clearly. Now, example, if you're looking at a close-up picture of a butterfly's wing, high resolution helps you see every tiny scale on its wing. Now, again, how these microscopes work. Now, these microscopes make things look bigger and clearer. The two big things they do are what I talked about. So one category is the magnification. It's like zooming, another clause is the resolution. So resolution gives things it gives things far more better in quality. We can see the details point by point, where we are trying to see these things. And resolution is it's like the microscope's superpower to see tiny things clearly, even when they are really close together. It's like being able to tell apart two tiny dots that are very close to each other. So what do we do with these microscopes, right? So these microscopes are like magic windows, as I talked about, into a world that's usually invisible to our eyes. We use them in many fields to learn more details about our world. Now, if I take an example in biology, if you're studying a tiny plant cell, a microscope helps you see all the parts inside the cell, like the nucleus and the mitochondria. This can help scientists understand how plants grow and what kind of work is taking place inside. Now, in medicine, doctors use microscopes to examine tiny pieces of tissues, like a small section of a tumor, to see if it is cancerous in nature. This helps them make the right diagnosis and plan the best treatment for the patients. In material science, if you are developing a new type of material for making phones, a microscope can show you the structure of the materials at a super tiny level. This helps engineers make materials that are stronger and that are very efficient. In forensic science, when detectives find tiny fibers on a crime scene, they can look at these fibers under a microscope to match them with fiber found on a suspicious cloth. This can help solve the crime problems. And this technology of microscopes, I mean, as this technology goes on, we get more amazing results at very small scales. I mean, to have a super resolution microscopy is like using a super zoom lens on your camera. It allows scientists to see even tinier things more clearly than ever before. For instance, they can observe individual molecules interacting in cells. Uh, Correlative microscopy, another example, is like using different types of microscopes together to get a complete picture. If you're studying in tiny insects, you might use an optical microscope to see its overall shape, and an electron microscope to see the fine details on its legs. So you can have a combination of microscopes to investigate the problem. So microscopy is like having a microscope that can go inside things. If you are studying how plants grow in soil, this kind of microscopy can look at the roots while they are still in the ground without disturbing them. So, in the end of this video, I would like to say that microscopes are like magical tools that can open up new worlds, and they certainly help us understand the nature and behavior of the tiniest things around us. And as technology keeps advancing, these microscopes will keep revealing more secrets and wonders in the world of very, very small scales. So certainly these microscopes are like magic windows.